our original video on 40RA Lotus Carlton was one of our most successful ever. But even though we did a massive amount of research to make sure we got the story right, people still queried some of the facts. So today we're going to put all those rumours to bed, because we're going to speak to this chap.
Hi, I'm Richard Austin, and I'm the original owner of 40RA when it was stolen.
You don't want to miss this, it's going to be fantastic. Well, as I've already said, I think this is going to be something special, and Richard, thank you so much for agreeing to talk to us today. You know, our original 40RA video, it did really well, but this is a whole nother level, so thank you so much for that.
You're welcome, and your original video, as I just told you, was factually correct, which was a rare thing at the time.
Yeah, there has been a little bit of interesting footage put out there, isn't it? But we'll get onto that in a little while. Now, just to set the scene a little bit, I thought it'd just be interesting. Obviously, you know, just to clear one thing up though quickly, this is not the original 40RA that we're sat in front of. This is sort of should we call it the ghost maybe of the original car. But
the number plate's the original.
They're the original ones off it, are they? Oh,
no,
okay.
they're not actually.
Oh, okay.
But the actual...
I'm with you, yeah, I'm with you. So, up to you owning the original 40RA, what was your car history? Have you always been into performance cars?
Yeah, ever since I was a kid, really. I was always, you know, all right, I started with a minivan, but was always messing around with it and tweaking and stuff like that. And I'd had a variety of performance cars. The one I had prior to this was a Porsche 911 Carrera 2, and didn't really like it very much. It was the only Porsche I've ever owned, and probably the only one I ever will. So it was my financial director who mentioned, why don't you get a Lotus Carlton? I honestly really thought of it at the time. And I looked into it a bit more and thought, yeah, I think that would really suit me.
So what made you choose this? Because at the time, I'd imagine you probably got Sierra Cosworth was out there, M-Series BMs. What made you go for the Lotus Carlton?
It was the fastest, biggest, loudest car on the road at the time.
I think that's it's not far off still nowadays. So yeah, I think that's a fair comment. So, cutting to the bit that everybody's really interested, casting your mind back to November the 25th, 1993, in your own words, do you want to let us know what happened?
Well, the alarm on the car was sounding at about 5 in the morning, and and the car's parked literally just outside my bedroom window. Look outside and I could see people milling around, and so I opened the window and shouted, I'll say it now, you can edit it, off you bastards. And then, but I hadn't got a stitch of clothing on, but I went herring downstairs, and one of my wife's coats was on the banister, and I just threw it over my shoulders. Went outside thinking, I've rumbled them, they're going to go. And as I walked out, this guy just stepped up to me, whack, and I was out. Lying on the drive, everything exposed. And as I came to, I mean, I wasn't out for long, it was probably only a few seconds, but as I came to, they'd already disabled the alarm and the steering lock, and they pushed it out onto the road. And as I was getting up, I heard all this crunching and cracking of fiberglass, and they were using a Sierra Cosworth as a pusher, literally a pusher, and it sailed off up the road. And with that, I went back inside, shouted to my wife to call the cops, I'm going after them. Which was one of the stupidest things anyone could ever do.
I was thinking, you know, one of the things I thought of before was, I was thinking, well, is that the point where you just say, okay, well, this is going to be an insurance job now? But there was...
I don't know what I was thinking. It was 5 in the morning and I was fast asleep 3 or 4 minutes ago. So anyway, we'd got a Renault Espace, and I hopped into the Renault Espace, and they probably went half a mile up the road and then turn left, and it's up a reasonably steep hill. And I caught up with them and followed them, and then as we were going up this hill, they stopped at the top, and they were obviously going to mess around with the electrics and get it going. And then I'm thinking, what the hell am I going to do? I'm sat here in a Renault Espace, there's several of them, and I've got no clothes on.
Is this where you possibly think maybe this wasn't such a good idea?
Well, as I was thinking, I think I might have to back away here. The next thing I saw was a Cavalier four-wheel drive turbo, and it had got an Irish registration on, which I think was BJI 944, reversing down the hill like the clappers, aiming towards me. And I put the Renault in reverse, but I was going a lot slower than them when this car hit me and damaged the front and steam everywhere, and at that point I was definitely defeated.
You were out of the chase.
And indeed, yes.
So obviously the car then disappears. What was your next awareness of it becoming a little bit infamous in the area?
I'd been in contact with the police a bit, but when it became notorious, I guess it wasn't much later. I can't remember the timeline very exactly because it's quite some time ago. And there were various questions asked, and the police actually said they thought they knew who it was, but they couldn't nail them and things like that. But I guess it just built up a little bit, you know. I recently had some contact with the chief of police for the station that was looking after it at the time. I can't remember his exact title, chief superintendent or something like that. And he said when he used to rock up for work in the morning, first thing he'd ask was, has 40RA been out tonight?
It was getting quite infamous then by that point.
It was indeed, yeah.
So obviously the car was taken in November. There was a follow-up article in the paper in the January, and is that something, do you think, that was there to try and flush the thieves out maybe? Because obviously cars, usually when they're stolen, there's maybe a little article in the local paper and then you hear nothing, but this one had quite a lot of media attention, didn't it? Well,
it had a growing amount of media attention because of the repeated robberies it was involved with. And they weren't stealing huge amounts. I think they were having a bit of a lark. And, you know, doing that robbery outside Rubery police station, I think they were just baiting them.
And so, not long after that January article, the car was found. What was the first thing you heard about the car had actually been recovered?
I don't remember precisely how I became aware of it, but I know I spoke to the police and they told me that it had been recovered from a canal in Knoll, and they then pointed me to the scrapyard where it was had been relocated to. So I went with a friend of mine to have a look at it, and it was in an extremely sorry, battered, horrible, stinky state.
And yeah, this is one of the things that comes up quite often about the question about, oh, it wasn't scrapped, someone's recovered it, someone's repaired it. There is absolutely no doubt that it was scrapped.
It was scrapped. It was scrapped. The interior was not in a decent state, shall we say. They'd taken a lot of the electronic stuff out of it, and I'm not sure how long it was underwater, but silt and smelly dregs from the canal. The engine had been submerged. You'd never really rebuild it. It would have been nowhere economical.
So, obviously, the car's gone, it's been scrapped, it's now down to the insurance company. How did things go there?
It was a bit of a battle, shall we say. I was looking for, you know, a payout based on the market value at the time, but they were offering what I considered to be quite a derisory figure initially. They upped that, and I said, look, I still can't replace that car for that amount of money. They said, well, it's a very difficult car to value. Can you find one equivalent to it? Clearly there weren't that many on the market, but we found one in Devon, and it was a similar spec and age and mileage to the one that had just been written off, and they agreed to buy that for me.
So you actually replaced the original 40RA with another Lotus Carlton?
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that surprised me, that I didn't actually realise you replaced it like for like. And how long did you keep hold of that one?
I don't remember precisely, but a year, 18 months, but I did sell it to a close friend of mine who was, strangely enough, here last night. We talked about it a little bit, and he kept it for about the same amount again, so where it went thereafter I don't know.
And the only thing that carried on from the scrap one to the next one and to this car is the number plate. There's nothing else that's followed through, is there?
That's it, correct.
So over the years there's been, how should you say, a few stories, myths maybe on the internet about this car. I'm sure you've seen them as the years have gone on. What are your thoughts been on some of the videos and stories and internet posts that have been out there?
Very amusing. Some of them have been almost hilarious. So yeah, I always wanted to tell the story, but I wanted to do it so that people could believe it and to see it for the reality.
Which is obviously what we aim to do with the original video, is try and dispel all these myths that have come up.
Yeah.
Now, you said you had the replacement Lotus Carlton for about a year, and obviously you took the plate off when you sold that car.
Yeah.
What else has it been on in the meantime? Because in the original video we had that now almost infamous picture of its own of the Hyundai Kona.
Well, I believe it was on one of my favourite cars. As I told you earlier, it was an Alpina B10 that I had, and I can't remember precisely because I've also got M1 CRO Micro, and that's appeared on a few of my cars. So I can't remember precisely which ones it's been on, but you're right about that. Caused much amusement putting it on a Hyundai Kona electric in lime green.
It did seem almost the complete opposite from, you know, maybe a slight link in green, but that was about it really, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was about it.
So, nearly 30 years after the loss of the original 40RA, you've decided to have another one.
I did, yeah. Well, I thought about it time and again over the years, and I thought, well, now's the time. So.
And what are your plans for this car? Have you had any adventures in it so far, or you got any planned?
Well, it wasn't, I'm not saying it's pristine now, but mechanically it wasn't absolutely spot on when I got it, which it is now. It's everything works. The only one little problem with a brake sensor, but it's a really, you know, reliable, easy car. Took it to the Nürburgring last year, and having said it was reliable, it burst the hose just as we got there.
Oh no!
So unfortunately we got it repaired, but the day we got it repaired they closed the ring for the week because of the 24 hours coming up.
Oh no, so you went all that way and never actually got around there?
That's right. So we're planning a return visit this year.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully we'll be able to get you some pics of it on the ring, and
that sounds a great place for this kind of car to be, and you know, it would be quite an epic adventure to be taking it around there.
It's not, you know, it's a bit of fun. I've driven a couple of other different cars around the ring, and if you don't know the circuit well enough, it's a bit daunting, so we won't be aiming for any marvellous lap times.
Richard, it has been an absolute pleasure. You know, I'm so pleased you've given us the opportunity to come and do this. I think for everyone at home, you know, this has hopefully really wrapped this story up for, you know, everyone that's come up with all these stories and ideas over the years about what could have happened to the original 40RA. You've heard it from the man himself. We know exactly what happened to it in his own words. I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, it would be fantastic if you could become one of our subscribers.